Welcome to Juriscare, where we discuss your legal issues in a manner that does not confuse you. As usual, we want to encourage you to go to our YouTube channel, Zerogen TV, and subscribe. And when you do subscribe, remember to click on the bell button, the notification button, so that you can get notifications whenever we broadcast. So let's continue with our discussion on rights, basically, or specifically today, consumer rights, first, which is part of the broad spectrum of human rights. Now, the thing is that with developing economies, monopolies tend to minimize consumer rights. In other words, when you have big monopolies, by monopolies I mean where you have one enterprise that does not have competition, like when we had the Nigerian Electric Power Authority, NEPA, when we had NITEL. So the effect of these monopolies is that they tend to eliminate competition, and because there is no competition, there is a form of economic dictatorship. In other words, consumer rights are not the paramount consideration, since, well, take it or leave it, you must come back, the consumer must come back. This, of course, is in contrast to the concept that the consumer is king, the consumer calls the shots. But happily, there is a lot of liberalization going on now in our economy, and we're seeing a lot of public-private initiatives and a lot of devolution in our economy going on right now. So it's quite pertinent for us to consider again our consumer rights and make sure that these rights are not only safeguarded but enforced when they are violated. These consumer rights, like I speak of them, are basically captured in a law called the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Act 2018. So this act also establishes a commission, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, that is the body that is responsible for safeguarding consumer rights across all sectors. Now, these consumer rights, specifically, what are they? Well, they include, for instance, the right to be informed properly about any product that you, as a consumer, you want to buy. First of all, what's a consumer? Who is a consumer? A consumer is not somebody who buys in bulk to resell to another person. A consumer is somebody who buys for the purpose of using the service or the product directly for the purpose of direct consumption. Now, these consumer rights, like I said, they include the right to information in understandable language. So you have a scenario where, as a consumer, you buy something. Maybe you buy a product from a shop or the market or the seller or the producer, and then the manual or the instructions or the description of the product is in a language you cannot understand. Maybe say German, when you know that German is not the lingua franca here, or in any other language that you do not understand. And because of that insufficiency or inadequacy of information, you cannot access the information you need to be able to use the product effectively. That is a form of an abuse of your consumer rights. Another consumer right that we can mention here is the right against unfair prices and terms. In other words, where you have a monopoly and the monopoly wants to take advantage of the fact that is the only producer or marketer that is offering the product. Like the example I gave about the time when we had a monopoly in our power sector or a monopoly in our telecom sector. So you find that because of this, prices can be unreasonable. That also is an abuse of our consumer rights. And going forward, the idea of a consumer rights regime is that there will be competitive and fair pricing. There are other sectors where we can talk about consumer rights, not just in terms of products. For instance, in the banking sector, for instance, banks are, and we entrust them with our money, and there is a fiduciary relationship between us and them. So sometimes it can be very disheartening, disconcerting for a person to be subjected to stress or poor services or an abuse of the relationship between the banker and the customer relationship. So some of those abuses of our consumer rights in the banking sector include when in cases of illegal charges, suddenly you look at your account statement and you find charges that you cannot explain, or poor customer service, you're not attended to properly, or fraudulent debit, suddenly you get alerts for transactions that you never carried out. These are examples of the abuses in the banking sector. In telecoms, you have cases of unsolicited adverts. You pick up your phone, you're getting adverts, you're being bombarded by adverts from different people that you did not solicit. You try to make a call, the calls keep dropping, truncated calls, or you purchase data for very expensive rates as against other jurisdictions, and even this data, you cannot do anything with it, and it runs out. Okay. Now, all these are consumer abuses, and there are procedures or channels for you to lodge your complaints. Of course, each of these sectors have regulators like NCC in telecoms, the central bank in banking, but the FCCPC, that is the Consumer Rights and the Competition and the Consumer Rights Protection Commission, is the central body that attends to all complaints. Now, the limitation with these bodies or with these regulators is that most of the times what they can do is just to attend to your complaints or try to rectify the wrong that you've suffered, but they cannot compensate you for damage. For instance, if as a result of an illegal deduction you are not able to access your money and you are subjected to some stress or distress, or maybe as a result of data that you should have, you could not transact some business and you lost business opportunity. So these bodies hardly offer sufficient compensatory reliefs. So that is why in these instances you must be able to enforce your rights both under contract and tort by consulting your attorney or your lawyer or your legal practitioner. So you can also, besides these bodies, you can also have access to your lawyer who can not only enforce your rights to make sure that they are protected, but also see that you're properly compensated for wrongs that you have suffered. So we'll continue again next time. Like I said, don't forget to go to our YouTube channel, Zerogent TV, and subscribe. If you have questions, you can drop them there, but we'll give priority to those who have subscribed to our TV. Hope to see you next time on this channel. Stay blessed.